I'm going to start recording. Okay, it's September 23rd, 2021. This is the Economic Development Advisory Committee's workshop. Today's meeting, as we're in workshop mode, we cannot make motions, but we do have staff presentation for you and several items to review. As we get to the end of our fiscal year, the county's fiscal year ends on September 30th, 2021, and we kick off our new fiscal year on October 1st. In the lead up to that, we have some documents that we'd like to put in front of you all that were sent in the invitation to attend this meeting today. It included the accomplishments from 2021 and the work plan looking forward to 2022. And with that, we're calling the meeting to order at 2:34 p.m. Are there any changes to the agenda, any additions, any deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I will continue on. I would like to first introduce Becky Cassells. Becky, are you on the line right now? Becky Cassells, you might be able to see her in the video. There you go. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Becky. Last name is Castles. I'm the new executive coordinator and the staff liaison for this board. So I'm here to help however I can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Are there any other members? Becky is taking attendance for us. So if the fireflies.ai, I don't know who that person is.
I think it's like an app that takes notes automatically.
Okay. Well, welcome app taking note then. I'm not sure if we have an attendance marker for her, but duly noted. Phyllis, if you have any questions, I think you can see in the participants portion of Zoom all the folks that are in attendance today for recording who's here. If you want to take note of that, that'd be big help. One of the things that the chair asked us to look into for this coming year is the ability to do offsite meetings. And we have a confirmation for our January meeting to go out to Newberry. They've confirmed with us, and we're looking into for our next offsite meeting, which would be in February for your, again, regular appointed time on the fourth Thursdays of the month, would be to essentially go to Alachua. We still have to confirm locations and dates, so we'll keep you all posted on what the game plan is for all of these other sites. Did anyone have a preference for, other than Alachua, any of the other smaller municipalities to visit next?
Maybe Hawthorne. I know they have a new city manager and a new mayor. I'm not sure.
I think Rebecca might know some folks over there. Becky might know some folks over there. So we'll see about that. Did everyone have an opportunity to look through the 2022 Work Plan 21 Accomplishments Report? If you didn't, don't feel pressed to come back with talking points today, or additions or subtractions or any kind of edits. I'll resend that out again to the committee so you can look through it. But what we'd like to be able to do for the board at the end of their fiscal year, beginning of their new fiscal year, is let them know what you've been able to do. And you did have a lot of things that you were able to work through and to provide input for the Board of County Commissioners, even in the face of having to work like this, having to work remotely in the face of COVID. So I really appreciate everyone's participation on this advisory board. It's going to be all the more important as we come out of COVID and begin to meet in person again and think about a lot of things that are up and coming. And some of those things we're going to cover in our staff reports. Is there any questions about the draft work plan as it's laid out now or in the accomplishments report?
You know, Sean, I'm still pretty much a new guy, but I also want to just commend you and staff on the incredible job that you did this year. I think you have a lot of accomplishments as well. So kudos to you and your team.
Thank you, Patrick. That's very generous. It is a team over here. You know, definitely couldn't do it without all the folks that are kind of helping out and making these things happen. Let's move on to, if there's no other questions about where we're going and where we're coming from, let's move on to staff reports. Give a quick update on the Sports Event Center. Unfortunately, we did have to postpone the groundbreaking ceremony. We were going to have it the Friday of the big Alabama-Florida football game. That didn't work out, unfortunately. So we're going to regroup at the end of September and look for a date in October. And it will probably be on the Friday before a big football game weekend is what we're thinking. But we're aiming for sometime in October. So it'll still be some site work going on the site. I don't think we'll be quite going vertical yet on the construction. So it'll still be fairly Spartan when you're out there. They've been moving utility lines around, sewer connections, and all those things that were formerly laid out underground. They had to move them around for all the new stuff that's going in that dirt lot that you see out there right now. But we'll get back to you as soon as we have, because we certainly would like to have all of EDAC be able to attend the groundbreaking ceremony with us. The Newberry CRA, this was just approved by the board in August. It was jointly funded over the next 30 years. I believe the budget will be about $90,000 a year going forward. They are going to provide, I don't want to steal Newberry's thunder for their CRA, but they'll be giving a review of their reinvestment plan for their downtown area in January when we meet with Brian Thomas out there. Again, this is taking millage from the county generated in a very specific area of the city of Newberry for purposes to reduce slum and blight conditions. And so that would be sort of things like infrastructure for sidewalks, for street improvements, things that would generally improve the urban condition in those communities. And they can use it for a variety of those types of purposes. But we'll hear a more detailed plan from the Newberry CRA folks in January. What I'd really like to take a few minutes to begin exploring with you all is the eco-industrial park. As a quick update, as you probably know, it's a 37-acre parcel dedicated to waste-based industries. The business plan is complete for the site. The land is shovel-ready. All the infrastructure is in place. And we have very informally begun business recruitment. We do not have a formal marketing plan in place. We do not have a real estate broker on hand. But as Mr. Forziano can attest to, we have some people that won't quite take a no, we're not ready to talk to you just yet answer, which is a great place to be, I think. We do have a lot of interested parties. We have 4 that we're talking to with various degrees of readiness to be a part of the site, to take advantage of some of the 37 acres. Before we get into the conversation about business opportunities at the park, just a quick reminder about what is the economic impact. For the community-wide, it's almost 3,300 jobs in the community. When you think about the direct, indirect, and induced job opportunities at the park at build-out. And build-out looks like, for that 37 acres, approximately 12 or so companies. So you're not talking about companies that typically average 15 acres or so. These are smaller footprint industries, something that would be under 10 acres or so per applicant. It would be a direct employment on this site. of between 300 and 400 or so jobs. And because it's in the remanufacturing, the tech sector, the agri-tech, clean tech sectors, the average income per employee is around $50,000 a year, which is much better than our area average here. When everything is built out on the site, it could produce upwards of $320 million a year and produce upwards of $24 million a year in state and local tax revenue. And all of these metrics were provided by the University of Florida Economic Impact Analysis Program. So this is the reason, one of the reasons why the board was so interested in the economic potential of an eco-industrial park. So right now, I'm gonna move this down a little bit. Several prospects have reached out to us and they're interested in approximately a third of the available acreage. We're not quite ready to say yes yet. And part of the reason why is that we don't have a strict policy that tells us what's the best fit. What's the best fit that meets both the state statute that would govern economic development in terms of having a negotiation with a company to come in and purchase or lease a piece of property for this, and which companies would be best for the underlying embedded land use. We have a PD on the property that says it's supposed to be waste-based industries, but do we mean every single waste-based industry that's out there? I don't think our community does, and I'm sure our board has many thoughts about what they want these businesses to do in terms of for our goals for quality employment and ability to pay, and again, cuts down to the types of industries that co-locate there. We think we've got a few that would be good fits for the board to think about, but we need some more guidance from them over these next couple of weeks as we go through the fall, so that we can have very refined conversations with these business prospects. Some of what's directing us are things within the solid waste element in our comprehensive plan, and also in our energy element. Clusters of waste-based industries, and telling us that overall this is important to us. This fits within the Board of County Commissioners' bigger guidance that this needs to be developed as an outgrowth of our solid waste system. And it fits with our future vision for how waste is supposed to be handled. It's not a linear process where you take something, you mine it, you refine it, you use it, and you throw it away. It's not a linear process. What we're talking about with zero waste is turning these things that we use into circular processes. Once they've lived through their useful life, being able to either repair or refurbish or recycle them to take their components and turn them back into something useful again. So it reduces our environmental footprint, but at the same time, it creates new and high value jobs in the community. And that's part of the conversation that we're going to have on the 28th with waste-based industries. So for the selection criteria, and we wanted to again have a first conversation with you on this. We're going to have an initial conversation with the board on the 28th about what some of those economic development criteria. I'll let Mr. Forzano talk specifically about Florida Statute 125, so I don't embarrass myself unnecessarily about what the state law looks like. But in essence, it allows us to, if we find that a business is overall helping the region with economic development, and I'm paraphrasing here, then it will, you can enter in negotiations with them for the sale or lease of county property. Otherwise, we would be in a position where we would have to issue some kind of competitive opportunity for all businesses to make a proposal. And as you can imagine, that would be very difficult for the county then to recruit industries in. If you said, well, I have a 5 acre, I have a 2 acre parcel over here, who wants to do something with this? And you then have to go through an RFP process to decide what that is, rather than having a criteria in place and having an individual come to us and say, I meet all these criteria and I want to enter into a long-term lease or purchase of the property from you. And beyond the Florida Statute 125, we're looking for, we think, good criteria would be does that industry have a clear business model? Do they have a pro forma? Can they show that they are a going concern? A lot of companies that talk to the county about processing and handling waste, they come to us and they say, well, if you provide all the resources and all the manpower and all the material, then we'll be happy to do something with your waste. We're not as interested in those types of industries. We want to engage with folks that already have an established business process and that have the financial capacity to build out their infrastructure. The county has put about $4 million into the underlying stormwater and utilities and the road network into this. And that's the majority of our investment in the site. We want to work with companies that have the ability to finance their own vertical construction. And as you saw before, from the UF's economic impact analysis program, we're looking for high quality jobs. We want to not only have jobs that pay a good salary, but we would like to have as much employment as possible. Because again, we've got $4 million invested in 37 acres. It's important that these industries aren't employing 1 or 2 people. We would like to see them employ several per acre here. And we have the beginnings of the idea of what some of those metrics might be on a per business per acre basis. But we're going to start to have that conversation with the board and flesh these out. And finally, in thinking about what this represents in the community, when you're talking about the manufacturing, the remanufacturing sector, ag tech, clean tech type industries, these are jobs that have many mixed skills. There are technical trades, there are the manufacturing trades. So these are opportunities and pathways to a middle class. We'll need to see that as part of any proposals that come to us as part of these applications to utilize the parcels that we break up on the land. And finally, really something that is important to us is that the companies that come in are offering employment opportunities to the community here. Not to just import labor into the community from outside. That will probably be some of that, but we really do want that the east side of Alachua County and East Gainesville have an opportunity here at this industrial park. Are there any thoughts or any concerns about any of the selection criteria? I know that they're being very generally presented right now, but this is where we're at in terms of thinking about topically things that are important and that fit well and that go above and beyond what the economic development strategies, economic development requirement standards of the state of Florida are.
Shauna,
Yes,
Shauna, I
ma'am.
have a question. So I know that we've talked about in the past in other areas where we're focusing on economic development that there might be training capacity incorporated with the educational institutions that we have locally. So has that been discussed, whether it be continued training or research opportunities in collaboration with Santa Fe or with the University of Florida?
Excellent, really excellent question. And yes, and Phyllis, she's on the line here. When we have hosted meetings in the past with companies that have come to talk to us, we've made sure that the University of Florida was in attendance as well as the workforce board. They've been there with us at the very beginning and talking to these companies because, we recognize again the idea of the vocational opportunities. We need to know, well, who are you? What do you do? How can we help craft these classes that get our folks ready for the job opportunities, depending upon if they're processing glass or deconstructing computer boards or any of the number of things that would need to be processed or reprocessed in a facility. So that is something that we are actively considering as part of the kind of rollout of our marketing strategy to say we're ready and willing to work with you to make sure that our workforce can take advantage of the job opportunities. Because that's, the big thing to be competitive with many of these companies that we need to know. Do you have the workforce to to help us out if we make an investment in your community. And see, there's some chat. All right. Are there any other questions? I hope I did justice to the workforce question. And Phyllis, are you on the line? Did you have anything?
I am.
Did you have anything you wanted to add about working with companies and workforce prospects? I mean, you're newly integrated as a county department, so we're looking forward to working even more closely with you than we have in the past.
Absolutely. And to answer Carolyn's question, in addition to the training opportunities with University of Florida and Santa Fe, the Workforce Board also has training grant opportunities that we offer to any companies that are coming to our area. So we make sure that they're aware of all of the different available opportunities that we have here.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. So I hope over the next, by the October meeting, I'll be able to come back to the committee with a more refined description of the selection criteria. If you have some thoughts in the month between this meeting and next meeting about how we can further qualify any of these criteria, please do feel free to send me a note, and we can either expand upon what our thinking is, but we'll want to come back to you at least one more time, I believe, in October to talk about where we're headed with this. And the plan is to bring back a refined criteria selection list to our Board of County Commissioners to their November meeting so that we can really move forward with negotiations with some of these interested parties. And some example industries that we might be talking to are people in the C&D industry. That's where I did a lot of my research at the University of Florida, working in construction and demolition and looking at opportunities for reuse and recycling. It has a very high degree of recycling. It's because you're dealing with materials like concrete and steel. I mean, by mass and by scale, you'll see that these are some of the easiest things to, and have some of the easiest markets to tap into. But there's a wealth of other things that go into construction and demolition materials that, if it's properly handled, can have many, many reuses. And so that's one of the types of industries that could potentially be a good fit for us. Yes, ma'am. You have a question, Carolyn?
Yes, I do have one more question. Have we done benchmarking across our southern region to see where there are gaps and related to this focus area? And could that be considered into the criteria so that we could possibly generate more demand and, if needed, surrounding counties support them as a source of additional revenue generation for our economy?
And I would have to say that, yeah, the vision for the material inputs to the park, we never wanted to represent to the companies that you had to only use, or your ability to draw from materials had to be limited to Alachua County had to work with. So Alachua County has about 700 tons a day of material that flows through its transfer station. And that's a lot. That is a tremendous amount of truck traffic to move around stuff and having recycling. But in the grand scheme of things, it could be so much more. And so what we have done to facilitate those conversations, we've looked at material sheds, kind of like the idea of a watershed. And one of the big analyses that we did was a plastic shed study, where we looked at a 300-mile radius around Alachua County and said, okay, what types of plastic do we have here? At the time, we were being approached by a couple of industries that were interested in not the high-grade recyclable plastic that have an active marketplace, that when you put it into your orange and your blue bin and send it to us, we can resell on a marketplace, but your waste-based plastic, the ones that are very low grade, so things like plastic films or the plastic containers that hold your strawberries those types of plastics don't really have a market, but there are industries that are willing to take them and reprocess them and do things like chemical recycling, which is break it down to its constituents and then send it back out again to turn into new plastics. So those industry types are what we said, okay, you know, this is what we have in our surrounding region, our plastic shed all the way down to South Florida. That makes Gainesville, Alachua County a real nexus in the Southeast, because you can access all of the materials in South Florida and those marketplaces, and you can access all the materials to the north of us as you go up into Alabama and Georgia, up into the Atlanta marketplace. And that's how we talk about material flows here, not just to what can you do with our material, but what can you do to support the surrounding region. And for just the 10 county or so surrounding region, Stacy, we have about 1 million or so people in population that surround us. So all those folks in that material, we would help those industries to access and see if we can bring it to them and help to make introductions. We've been doing that in the background for several industries that have wanted to locate in the area. You're welcome. Charm, hard to recycle materials. There's many things that are just difficult to process. You know, there are things like mattresses. And, you know, what are you going to do with an old mattress? Well, you can actually recycle the bits and pieces of old mattresses. There are markets for these things, and so there are things that are very difficult and bulky, or the way they're configured, or what they're made out of. You know, it doesn't really compact well. It doesn't lend itself well to being shipped and transferred to a solid waste transfer station or to a landfill. So a charm center, someone that could help us out with that, would be a real benefit to the site. Organics management. I don't see us having full scale composting type facilities at our site. We are talking to a organics recycler right now that will hopefully locate out in the city of Newberry. The city of Newberry is actively working with them. But the same company, we have actually two that are talking to us, are more interested in our site as not so much a material production site, but as a research station. So these are folks that are actively doing research with the University of Florida and the biological sciences on how best to refine their processes, their industrial processes, or how best to work on their inoculant. Because if you're doing composting and you're putting materials in windrows, you want to be able to maybe put the right amount of bacteria and fungi species into it to speed up the process of decomposition into compost material. And also you can create prescription soils. And some of these folks are doing just amazing stuff right now with that science. And they're interested in our site as more as a research and development opportunity. So think of it more as like using the EIP as lab type space. I will pause there before I jump out. That's all I had to present today on the Eco-Industrial Park. This is just an introduction to it. I want to come back in October if the chair will allow it, to give you one more conversation on this, to let you know where this is headed and how it's evolved. If you have any questions in the meantime or suggestions on how to move this forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I'd like to just turn it over now to a member comment. All right. I appreciate you, everyone, bearing with me right now. I did think I would act as chair of the meeting, but happy to fill in. When we get to October, if we're able to meet in person, I hope to have the committee vote on either vote on a new chair and vice chair, or at least in the January meeting when we're out in Newberry, elect a new chair and vice chair. I think we can move hopefully very soon away from these video formats, these workshop type formats, and meet in person again. If there's no further questions from the committee, making sure I'm not missing any raised hands, I will, Mr. Bedfeld. Hey, Eric.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
No, that's okay. We've made our way all the way down to member comments. We're just on the cusp of adjourning. I wanted to give you an opportunity to give us any updates that you have over at the city of Gainesville.
Well, we are working a little bit on the Lot 10 proposal with AMJ. So hopefully we'll be getting a purchase and sale agreement back to the city commission in a timely fashion here for their review. So we're moving on that front. We have a couple of things that are going on in and around the city's airport industrial park. Couple potential properties that we're working on for sale, either with a new entity or existing entity out in the park. And then, you know, I do disposition of land that's for sale, but then also I do a lot of leasing of city facilities as well, where we have private entities that lease city buildings. So we're trying to wrap up some leases on those particular properties. Some of them are properties you all know, like the Catalyst building in the Power District over by the DRU building, a couple of the properties that are around Bo Diddley Plaza, Steamers, for instance. We're also working on a lease renewal for the Depot building, which is down at Depot Park, et cetera. So as you know, with the pandemic, many of our folks that were leasing came to the city for forbearance on their rent, and the city provided that. And so now, you know, we're trying to work through unwinding that a little bit and then moving to new lease. So those are some of the things I've been working on.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
Sure. And I apologize for being late, but I was at a city commission general policy committee meeting. So
Yeah, Thursdays are a hard day sometimes. I recognize that. I'll catch you back up with you, Eric, on a few outstanding things. I would love to be able to talk about the Gateway project, see where we're at with that. But we'll touch base later on that.
great.
All right. If there's no further business to discuss for EDAC, I would like to, is there a motion to adjourn? All right, so moved. It's 3:07. Thank you very much for everyone's time. Take care now.
Nice to see everybody. Thanks.
Here. And Fernanda, you had a question for me?
Yes, I do, Sean. Thank you so much for letting me, I guess, come on to this meeting. It's my first time coming to any